Hey, all you action figure enthusiasts out there, JC here, and welcome to a special Sunday edition of TNInews Live. And besides being on a different day, you can see a little bit different venue for today's stream. And I'm trying out basically a new setup here. This is my upstairs office. So, um, like I say, just kind of testing some things out. I've got some things going on tomorrow, which is why I wasn't thinking I was going to be able to do a live stream tomorrow, but I definitely wanted to talk with you guys about all of the latest Hasbro reveals at MCM London. And I figure there's not going to be much else to talk about, even if we waited until tomorrow. So why not go on and do a special Sunday edition? So that is going to be the primary topic of discussion here. Hopefully, you guys are hearing me good. If not, let me know. Let's just do a quick roll call, see who is here today. So we've got Zim in the house, another toy day. Awesome. It's always a toy day, whether you're watching me or somebody else. It's always a good toy day. Irish John, I see YouTube is still messing around with people's names. But good to see you, John, from Ireland, as always. We've got Patrick here. What's up? Really excited for some of the third-party masterpiece Transformers revealed at TFCon. I didn't follow the TFCon stuff that closely this weekend. I was more concentrating on MCM, but I did see a few things like I'm trying to think what was I saw images of a Devastator, and I think it was Devastator. Unfortunately, not going to be really talking about that stuff today. I'm going to be focusing again on primarily the Hasbro MCM reveals. Quinn's Comics in the house. Good to see you, my friend, with your breaking news last week. And we're going to just recap that a little bit here for those who maybe missed that on the McFarlane toy front. We've got Adam in the house. Good to see you. What is up, Shalaxon? We also have Padre in the house. Greetings, good sir. And yeah, so looks like some people are still piling in, but I think we're good to go. Let's start off with the news and head over to the site. Well, let's start off with our one piece of non Hasbro news, one main piece. Again, recapping the news that Quinn's Comics brought us last week on Friday. But in case you missed that stream, I just wanted to go over it again. We have what looks like is coming, not 100% confirmed by McFarlane Toys, but these, distributor listings generally are fairly accurate. But, as always, I will call it a rumor until McFarlane Toys themselves officially confirm it. But we've got theatrical edition figures. Looks like we've got another round of Superman. So ones that we've already gotten with the Henry Cavill and Christopher Reeve. So I don't know how those will differ from the ones that we've previously gotten. But then Brandon Roth. I'm assuming Superman Returns figure. Obviously he also had the older version of himself in the CW series with a different suit, so more of a Kingdom Come type suit in the CW series. But I'm going to assume that this is going to be, this is kind of more of a movie thing, and getting us the original Superman Returns uniform. But I could be wrong, especially since they are apparently doing Supergirl from the CW series as well. So who knows? Maybe they're going to mix it up. But it makes more sense to me that it would be the movie version of Brandon, not the CW version, if they're also getting Christopher Reeve and Henry Cavill. And then, of course, new Supergirl movie figures McFarlane is going to be doing. They hadn't told us exactly what they were doing, but they did tell us previously. They had confirmed that they were doing figures for the new Supergirl movie. So Supergirl herself, Lobo, Jason Moa, switching over from Aquaman to Lobo, and I guess Lobo's bike is getting the McFarlane treatment as well. I don't know if it's just the bike. based on the listing, looks like it is just the bike, but I don't know that 100%. And then the big one was the Jack Nicholson Joker from '89 Batman. Though, as many have pointed out, inspired was used, which suggests that they don't actually have the likeness rights to Jack Nicholson. So it is not known at this time how much like Jack Nicholson the actual figure will look. Hopefully they'll get it close enough that people will be able to tell who it is without technically they're gonna have to thin that needle, I guess, but hopefully it's not just some completely non-distinguishable, looks like more of a comic book Joker or something. That would be kind of disappointing, I think. Though I've seen some people suggest that they'll get the figure and then they'll go hire somebody to do a custom Jack Nicholson head sculpt to fit on the figure if it ends up not looking at all like Jack Nicholson. So, um, comic book base, one thing Quinn shared that was not in the previous listings I had seen, for you Teen Titan fans, we've got a new Robin figure based on Teen Titans issue number 41. So I hadn't seen a listing for that one. Everything else we talked about, posted on the sites. Quinn just confirmed for us, so not going to go over that stuff again. But again, Jack Nicholson, Joker of some type, Brandon Roth, Superman of some type, Supergirl. I can't even, honestly, Supergirl had two outfits in the CW series. She had the pants outfit in the later episodes, and then the more traditional miniskirt outfit, which I'm assuming is what we'll get from McFarlane. But again, that's just an assumption on my part. And I'm just going to, since Quinn has the scoop on this one, I'm just making sure he's not adding anything. So don't see anything. So yeah, so we'll have to wait and see on this stuff. Yeah, this is all 2026 stuff, so I don't know when they're going to announce it. They might wait until Toy Fair next year, which is in February. So I guess we'll just have to see on that one. Before we delve into all the Hasbro stuff, Playmates Toys Last Ronin Raphael figure is listed on Target's website. I think it was briefly available, but not anymore. I'm assuming it will be available again at some point. $30 for this. It's a 4.5-inch figure and from Playmates Toys. So this is more of a collector-oriented type figure that they're doing, but still has a pretty, not what I would say NECA quality, and definitely has like a $30 price tag to it. But it didn't stop people from buying it this morning. But again, I assume it will be available again at some point. Now there's two figures that they're doing. They announced these at I think it was San Diego Comic Con. So they're doing the last Ronin himself as well. That one is not, as far as I know of, has not popped up on Target's website, but again, likely should. Back in July they said these were going to be released in October, so you'll probably see these in physical stores as well, assuming you go into physical Target stores. So, but I guess kind of the big reveal here is we didn't know what the price was, and now we do. $30 if this is something you plan on adding to your collection. All right. So now let's delve into Hasbro. So let's start off with Transformers, because we've got a whole week of Hasbro pre-orders coming up this week. Starting tomorrow, going all the way through Thursday, there's going to be different Hasbro pre-orders. So all of which will take place at 1 p.m. Eastern time But things kick off tomorrow at 1 p.m. with Transformer pre-orders. Now they didn't really at at MCM, they didn't really show much new in the way of Transformers. Most of the stuff that's going up for pre-order tomorrow was actually announced back during San Diego Comic-Con, and then we saw again at New York Comic-Con. But they did show us the Onslaught figure for the Combaticon. So this is this is the big one. Um, oh, they also showed off the next they showed off the first two of these timeless collection Transformers at New York Comic Con with Prime and Starscream, and now we've got Megatron and Bumblebee. So these will be going up for pre-order. Toys R Us took these pictures out there in London. So, but to me, the big news was getting to see Onslaught for the Combaticon. So, um, Brawl and Blast Off are going up are two of the ones going up for pre-order tomorrow. You can see Onslaught's about the same size as the Studio Series, Soundwave, and Optimus Prime. Obviously, it's an unpainted prototype. Here he is with the new Thundercracker that went up for pre-order earlier this month. There is, I'm not sure which version of Onslaught that is, but a little bit shorter than that. That's probably the last combiner Onslaught that they did. Breaks off into two pieces. So again, this obviously is an unpainted early prototype. And then there's your Megatron from the Timeless Collection. These will be Pulse exclusives. There's Bumblebee. I guess Bumblebee is what? A grasshopper? I think that's what Bumblebee is now. And looks like Megatron is like a Razorback or something. So this is all four of them together. Again, these will be Pulse exclusives. I don't think they gave a pre-order date yet for when they're going to launch. I won't swear to it, but I don't think those are going up tomorrow. So let's talk about everything that is going up for pre-order tomorrow for Transformers. So first of all, we've got the Voyager class Maximal Big Convoy. You know, the Prime that transforms into an elephant, and Razor Claw. So, or leader, say Voyager. I meant leader class. These are leader class. Then we have Voyager class. We have the Brawl, the Junkion Wreck-Gar. That's from the animated series, not the movie, the Transformers animated series. And then Age of Primes, Alma, Emma, whatever that word is, Prime, Emma, God, it's one of those words that just sticks in your Malagam. I don't know, but this weird looking one of the Age of Prime figures. And then for deluxe class, we have the Quintus Prime, which is that squid looking thing, Sure Shot, another Combaticon with Blast Off, Quick Strike, and Junkion Jalopy. So again, we saw all of these initially announced at San Diego and then again at New York Comic Con. So these aren't really new reveals, but they are going up for pre-order for the first time tomorrow. So it's like a total of 10 different Transformer pre-orders tomorrow. These are the official images. I don't even know what that thing transforms into. But I definitely will be picking up. I've already got Vortex, so I will definitely be getting Brawl and Blast Off. If you were a fan of the animated series, again, the squid guy from Age of Primes, Sure Shot, again, Blast Off, which I definitely will be getting. So, again, total of 10 Transformer pre-orders tomorrow, 1 p.m. Eastern Time, available at places like Big Bad Toy Store, Entertainment Earth, Amazon should have them. Pretty much everywhere that carries Transformers should have them. So, look for those tomorrow. That's your first round of pre-orders from Hasbro this week, or this coming week. Then and that's the 27th. And then on Tuesday we have Star Wars. So we have 3 new Black Series figures that were announced. No, that's not Nicolas Cage. That's a young Dooku from the Clone Wars cartoon series. Jedi Master Dooku from Tales of Jedi, Seventh Sister Inquisitor from Rebels and such. Quaylen Voss, a new Quaylen Voss figure, and then for Vintage Collection, the Stranger, Darth Vader, Emperor's Wrath with the translucent helmet. So we got a reissue that went up for pre-order for Black Series on that earlier this month. And then Maul from the animated series. Not Darth Maul, because he's no longer a Darth, but so these are the official images for the Black Series figures. Again, depending on how you look at this face sculpt, sometimes he looks kind of like a young Count Dooku, but then other times he looks like Nicolas Cage. They come with, each of these figures come with the moving blade type thing for the lightsaber, so it looks like they're moving the blade around. That's a new feature you're seeing more and more with these Black Series figures. Same thing with the Inquisitor with the double blade. So those are going up for pre-order on Tuesday, along with these 3 Vintage Collection figures. So there's your Maul. I think we've gotten Maul before, but this is a new version. Darth Vader with the translucent helmet, which, yeah, I'm pretty sure they've done before in the scale, but and then the Stranger from the Acolyte series, which didn't seem to be ever well received. I don't think we're getting a second season of this series, so we'll never really learn the mysteries behind that character. Here are some in-hand images from the booth from a variety of people: Mr. Stormtrooper Davis, Boss Bounty, Dan Hooves Reviews, and Geek Cave Toys. So there's the Inquisitor with her little probe droid thing. There's the Darth Vader. The helmet looks pretty good in the light. Stranger, young Dooku. But the helmet looks pretty cool. There's the helmet for the Stranger. See, and that right there, that looks more like a young Dooku than Nicolas Cage. But like I say, some of those images, Quaylen Voss. Obviously, with the Vintage Collection figure, that one has the helmet that is removable, or like it's an alternate head type thing, I think. But you can essentially have the figure with or without the helmet on. So again, all 6 of those figures are going up for pre-order on Tuesday, again at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Then on Wednesday is Marvel Legends Day. So as we talked about on Friday, the Spider-Man Retro Wave is what is going up for pre-order this week. Again, should be available pretty much everywhere. So we're getting that Uncanny Spider-Man, which is Nightcrawler dressed up as Spider-Man. This is the Spider-Man slash Venom figure. It wasn't really. I guess this is a thing in the comics. I'm not familiar with it, but it's a variant of black costume Spider-Man. Basically, I don't know what's with the chain, but like I said, I'm not familiar with the character. But Hypno Hustler with his guitar, the Owl. So I'm it's not a bad looking figure. I've seen some people disappointed that it's not more in his classic look with the bow tie and stuff. This is a more modern look for the Owl, but that doesn't really bother me. I'm glad we're finally getting him. Obviously, we had already seen Cardiac at at New York Comic Con. Spider-Man 2099, that was the other one we saw at New York Comic Con. More looks at Hypno Hustler, the Owl, the Spider-Man or Spider Venom does have an unmasked head sculpt. So another Peter Parker. I assume that's Peter Parker. There's your Nightcrawler, Uncanny Spider-Man. This seemed like one of the more popular ones. I seeing a lot of people happy with this one. Does have his sword, has a boomph type effect piece. Now, besides the retro wave, this was the Gamerverse figure that Dan Yun had hinted at. It is repaints of those 7-inch Sentinels, the 2-pack from the X-Men arcade video game. So if you're familiar with that game, you know the Sentinels appear in various colors. So this time we're getting the red and the green versions, one each. So if you wanted a bunch, you'd have to army build. Like the previous 2-pack, this is going to be a Pulse exclusive. They did not give a date on when this is going to go up for pre-order yet, but and it is just repaints, same accessories, including the rock. So everything you got with the previous 2-pack, again, they're just repainted to represent the various colors that appeared in the arcade. The packaging. Again, they're about 7.1 inches tall. They do not hold the rock very well. I can tell you, if you have the first 2-pack, getting that rock to stay in the figure's hand is not an easy task. Finally, for Marvel Legends, we got a new Target exclusive on X-Men Retro Cardback, Emma Frost, diamond form, so with the translucent plastic. You get 2 head sculpts, multiple hands, you get some other accessories. So people seem to be pretty happy with that one as well. Again, this is a Target store exclusive. No word yet on when it's going to go up for pre-order. I'm sure Dan Yun will give us a heads up if Hasbro doesn't put out any official information with dates, which they have not yet with any of these reveals. Thanks to Dan Hu's review, this is a look at. So you may recall at New York Comic Con, they started teasing these little yellow missile bullets, and now they're teasing these blast effects that you can plug the bullets into, which obviously will plug into some type of weapon. We will get another tease for whatever this figure is for at the Luca convention next week. The Hasbro panel for Luca is slated for the 30th. So what is that? Is that Friday or Saturday? That's Thursday. So I don't know the time. Reading the Luca site is not in English, so it's hard to decipher. But and it should be noted that Hasbro will be at Luca. This is in Italy, but from what I can tell, it's only going to be Star Wars and Marvel. So I wouldn't expect anything for Transformers or GI Joe revealed at Luca. Just Marvel and Star Wars. But Dwight said we'll get another teaser for whatever this figure is at the Luca convention next week. So, and I'm going to share with you one of our readers, Mario, which I think might be a good guess. But before I get to that, going back to the Emma Frost figure, in the corner of the packaging for Emma, people have noticed what is likely teasers for additional figures. Deluxe version of Onslaught. We've seen rumored listings for that. And then you'll notice what looks like Cannonball's head and Cypher, Doug Cypher from the New Mutants, good pals with Warlock. So I believe this is going to be one figure with two head sculpts, wearing the traditional classic New Mutants uniform. Now, yes, Sam Gunther is a little bit taller than Doug, but for now at least, if you want both these characters in their original New Mutants outfits, you'll have to buy two of these figures. So we've seen them do that before with other New Mutant characters back when they were doing the Walgreens exclusives. Again, one figure with two head sculpts, with Cannonball and Cypher. So those, and I'm guessing those are going to be Target exclusives since they're teasing them on a Target exclusive figure. I can't say that 100%. I'm just making an assumption, but I doubt they would tease figures that aren't going to be available at Target on a Target figure. So I'm going to guess that these two additional figures that they're previewing here are going to end up being Target exclusives, probably on X-Men retro card backs. Here's new looks at the 12-inch Apocalypse from X-Men 97. Again, thanks to Dan Hu. So, thing to here note basically with these new images is we get to see some of the additional accessories attached to the figure. You can see in the one image the spike ball, the other image has the drill hand and the sword hand. So we saw the accessories at New York Comic Con. Most of these images, well, so that's this is from MCM with the extra accessories, the spike and the drill and the sword. The rest of these images are from New York Comic Con. I took these images. But I was hoping they would put the shield on the figure, but so far at least they have not done that, which is one of the other accessories. But you have until November 10th to. This is the made to pre-order item available only on Hasbro Pulse, so $120. And like I say, you've got until November 10th if you want to make sure you can add this one to your collection. You know, like we saw with Dragon Man, will they offer it again? Maybe, but certainly no guarantees. Um, but if you want this 12-inch Apocalypse, you'll probably want to pre-order it before November 10th. Remember, with these made to pre-order figures, you don't get charged until the figure ships, which will be about a year from now, probably September timeframe of next year, unless it gets delayed, like the Sentinel has been delayed, which I've seen that starting to pop up overseas. But for those of us here in the United States, we're not supposed to get our Sentinels until December now. So that covers the Marvel Legend reveals. And again, we'll probably get I don't know exactly what we're going to get revealed next week um, at the Luca convention, but yeah, we'll get a couple more. I don't expect it'll be probably less than what was revealed this weekend. But again, I don't know for sure. But I want to go back to the guests for these missiles. So Mario was the first one to point this out to me. This guy, his name is Firepower. Back during the Armor Wars, this guy fought Iron Man when he went from basically this Firepower guy destroyed the Silver Centurion armor. They faked Tony Stark's death, and then Iron Man reemerged in the new updated gold and red, or gold and yellow, or not gold, you know what I mean, the traditional colors of Iron Man, but with the new updated suit, which was more powerful and ended up beating Firepower. But this guy, he's well armed. Probably could use parts from the Ironmonger figure that they did from the movie, I would think. Um, when I talked to Dwight about this figure at New York Comic Con, he told me it was something very obscure but very cool. So I feel like that this character fits that. Um, if these the only, I have not been able to find a picture. You'll see these missiles on his thighs on the side here. There's 3 on each side, so 6 missiles, 6 of these things on his side. I've not been able to find a picture of what those actually look like. So I don't know if they look like, I don't know if they look at, from the front they fit, but I don't know if they have these little, if the back of these things on this figure match this. If it does, that would definitely, I think, 100% confirm that that's what this figure is being teased for. But so I won't say 100%, but it seems like a good fit for everything we've heard about this figure. Comic book based, fairly obscure character, um, but cool. Looks like something Hasbro could reuse parts from another figure that they've already done. Um, you probably could attach this flame effect to these launchers so it looks like they're firing out of his legs. So again, and I even, I tagged Dwight in my Instagram post to see if he would comment. I've not heard anything back. I also tagged Dan Yun on Twitter to see if either one is willing to say anything. Dwight has been daring people to give him the correct answer of what this figure is. Now, if I was able to talk to him at MCM, I could, go to him and say this, but I don't know if he's going to respond online, especially if this is the actual correct guess. But right now, that's what I'm going with, Firepower, and we'll have to see if it is. I don't know when they're going to reveal this figure, so I don't know. Again, we're going to get another clue, at least another clue, if they don't go on and fully reveal the figure at the Luca convention. And then remember, Hasbro, even though they've not told us what convention it is, they are attending another convention. I'm assuming another overseas convention, sometime in November, probably early November. So um, I don't know if they're going to hold off and reveal him there or what. And then they also are going to have another fan stream before the end of the year. So but again, we'll have to wait and see. But that's my guess. Firepower, and I think it would be pretty cool if that's what they end up doing. Another Iron Man villain. All right, let's jump over to GI Joe. Now, so the Hasbro pre-orders are Wednesday. There is a Hasbro pre-order on Thursday, and from what I understand, it's going to be some type of Star Wars holiday figure. I don't have specifics. Nothing that was revealed at MCM. So, and I've lost track of the holiday figures that have already been announced. So, and if all of those have gone up for pre-order or not. So, I don't know if it's something we haven't seen before or if it's one that we have and I just lost track of. But from what I'm understanding, Thursday's pre-order is one Star Wars figure that's a holiday themed one. But then GI Joe did have some new reveals this weekend, but those pre-orders aren't happening until November 4th. So they'd shown us the renders for these, or actually the name announcements for these at New York Comic Con. Zap, classic Zap, one of the original 13, Crazy Legs, and the female Crimson Viper. So what we didn't know at New York Comic Con was that these are going to be on retro card backs. So I thought Hasbro had said that they were done with retro card backs for this year, but I guess they are. I guess technically this is considered 2026. So that's probably does fit with what Hasbro told us about no more retro card backs this year. So they'll go up for pre-order this year, but they won't be released until next year. But I've seen some people not happy with Crazy Legs facial expression. Zap is the favorite for me. I know he's very plain, but I've always liked Zap, and I'm definitely interested in finishing up the original 13. I think we just need Flash, which is definitely coming in Grand Slam, which would be just a repaint of Flash. I think that's all for the original 13, because we've got Steeler and Short Fuse coming. We had Hawk in the with the mobile missile system. We had we've had Grunt, had Tripwire, Clutch, Covergirl, Scarlet, Stalker, Rock and Roll. Um, who am I missing? Did I say Clutch? Oh, Breaker. We've already gotten Breaker. We've gotten two versions of Breaker. Um, well, two versions of most of these, since a lot of these also got released as retro card backs. Uh, who am I missing? But definitely Grunt or Flash and Grand Slam need to come. So those again, these are going up for pre-order on November 4th. So that's what, next week, not this coming week, but the following week, the first week of November. So these will likely be the first pre-orders for Hasbro in the month of November. These should be available everywhere. Like I said, some people aren't happy with the fact that we've just got that open mouth expression for Crazy Legs. And then the female Crimson Guard, which obviously was not ever released in the original line, but something we saw. I don't think we ever saw a female Crimson Guard. In fact, I almost kind of want to say that a female Crimson Guard kind of goes against what the Crimson Guards were, which were basically a white male, blonde, your perfect white male, blonde guy. In fact, they were technically Crimson Guardsmen. Um, we saw some female Cobra troopers and soldiers, but I feel like Cobra actually would not is a type of organization that would not have let women into their Crimson Guard elite force. But there you go. Has the all silver faceplate, no black on it. That's really, and having breasts, that's really the only thing that kind of differentiates the female from the male version. So again, all three of those are going up for pre-order on the 4th. We also had some cool name reveals. So big thanks to Dan Hu for streaming the Hasbro panel live for everybody. But for name reveals, we had Taurus and Red Dog 2-pack. So rounding out the Slaughter Renegades from the G.I. Joe animated movie. Hydro Viper, Zanya, which is Zartan's daughter that first appeared in the IDW comics, and then a Ninja Force Zartan. I did note here in this story that they'd be at Hasbro would be at Luca, but again, I'm not expecting any G.I. Joe reveals at the Luca convention. I won't say that 100%, but based on the Luca website for the Hasbro panel, it just says Marvel and Star Wars. They had the Arctic Kiss on hand at MCM, but they still have not given any specific details for when this is going to be available on Hasbro Pulse or how much it's going to cost. I'm going to take a guess and say they're going to wait until the Apocalypse figure campaign ends, which again is November 10th, and then they probably will launch the pre-order campaign with the limited window for the Arctic Hiss shortly after that. So probably like the second week of November, second or third week of November. They showed off this teaser that they showed off at New York Comic Con again. Still have no idea what that's for. Looks like something you would put on like an ox or something. I don't know. It looks like something like you put on a farm animal. But again, I'm pretty excited for these two. We've had them in 3 3/4 inch, but we're not going to get them in 6 inch. Couldn't get a good image of the Hydro Viper, but again, Zartan's daughter. They've done her in 3 3/4 inch as well, but and then I guess Pixel Dan will be super excited for this Ninja Force Zartan. Um, we talked about so nothing really new. I mean, they had the Tron HasLab on display. Thanks to Geek Cave Toys for these images. I don't know. Looking at this image, this crotch piece for Tron just does not look quite right to me, but I don't know. It stands out a little bit. Still not a lot of movement on this campaign. It's still just barely over 1,000 backers. Right now, we are sitting at 1,066. So I think when we talked about this on Friday, it was at 1,030, somewhere in that neighborhood. So it really hasn't gone up a whole lot since over the weekend, but it still has, over 30 days. Well, now I guess we're just under 30 days now, but still got decent amount of time. But I don't think this counter is going to go up much until maybe the very end. So if this thing's going to back, it's going to be one of those that backs in like the last day or something like that. And it's going to have, I mean, I've seen some of these campaigns where it still had over halfway to go. And then that last day or so, it still managed to reach its funding goal. So I wouldn't rule out it getting backed until, even if come the last day, it's still almost 9,000 needed. But this one definitely, I think, has an uphill battle. I think the scale works against it. I think, and I see Steve Evans on his social media really pushing for the 3 3/4 inch stuff. And I think Star Wars is a little unique. There are definitely still a fair number of 3 3/4 inch collectors for Star Wars. But once you get outside of Star Wars, I just, even G.I. Joe these days, I don't think has the 3 3/4 inch collectors like it once did. I'm not saying there aren't those out there. Same thing with Marvel. There's definitely, you'll see people online, they'll say, oh, I wish they would restart the 3 3/4 inch, Marvel Universe figures again. But I don't think there's that huge a demand for 3 3/4 inch figures for any of these properties. So, and Tron in general, I think just in general, there's just not tons and tons of Tron fans out there looking for action figures. So even the 6 inch Tron Legacy figures, I think Hasbro, we're still waiting to hear what the price of those are going to be. I see a lot of confusion on these. These are not, from everything I've seen, these are not general retail. You're not going to see these on stores. I saw somebody ranting that it was crazy these weren't out in time for the Tron Ares movie. It wouldn't matter because these are only going to be available on Hasbro Pulse. Which means they're going to be limited, which means they're probably going to be more expensive than the regular 6 inch MSRP, which is $28. That's not cheap for a 6 inch figure, but it's probably going to be even more than that. I don't know how much more, but probably between 30 and $40 a figure, I'm guessing. I have no idea what the light cycle is going to cost. So I think Hasbro is not going to get tons and tons of people buying even these 6-inch figures, but I think the 6-inch is going to be more popular than the 3 3/4 inch. And that's just, I for anybody who wants these, I hope it gets back for you. I'm not saying, you know, I know there are some people out there who like 3 3/4 inch, so I'm not trying to rain on your parade. I'm just giving you my honest opinion of where these things stand. But for those who actually want these, I hope it does reach its funding goal. I just don't think there's going to, base especially with the price on the HasLab, which is $260. I don't think there's going to be enough demand for it. And like I say, even the 6-inch Tron figures, I think Hasbro is going to have an uphill battle. And it'll be curious to see if they end up, how they're, I assume they're going to, I mean, they're Pulse exclusives, but I assume they're not going to do like made to pre order on those. But again, I can't say that for sure. All right. I think that pretty much covers everything. I don't think I'm forgetting anything. I see Jay's toy collection UK is in the house. He was in attendance at MCM London. In fact, he helped us get these in hand images for the Marvel Legends stuff. So him and Jacob's Toys. So I guess we didn't go over the in hand images for the Marvel Legends. There's the Emma Frost. So I guess they didn't have the Sentinels on hand at the convention, but those are just repaints anyway, so I guess. But hopefully you had a good time, Jays, at MCM. And he is acknowledging he had a fun weekend, so that's definitely good. William, good Sunday to you all. Great to have coverage of the event. Yeah, and I mean, you got to thank guys like Jace and Dan Hu and some of these other guys. I certainly it would not be advantageous for me to like fly over to London to try and cover a London convention. So having people on the ground like that, like those guys, is definitely nice. Padre is going to have to sell plasma to afford Transformer pre-orders at the new inflated prices. Yes, and I've noticed just in the past month, I've definitely kind of noticed on the back end side a slowdown. I'm going to say definitely people are still buying stuff, but I'm definitely noticing a slowdown in with recent pre-orders. So, and there's probably a number of factors for that. Um, Obviously, raising prices has not helped. Things going on in the world with things like the government shutdown, health insurance premiums going up for a lot of people. Uh, we still have threats of tariffs. You know, our president is over in Asia right now, supposedly trying to hammer out a new trade agreement with China. So we'll see how that goes. He got mad at Canada this week and just imposed a new 10% tariff on Canada. So all of those things definitely, I think, are starting to people are starting to feel the effects of a lot of that stuff, and so I think it's definitely causing a slowdown. I am wondering, obviously this time of year for the toy industry in general, this is when they do the majority of their sales with the holidays and everything, and so I wonder if it's not going to be a great shopping season uh, for the toy companies with the coming holidays. Like I say, this is generally their busiest time of year where they do their most sales, and same thing with the retailers. This is when they sell their most of their merchandise. So it may end up being a rough year at retail for Christmas. So that's something we'll have to keep an eye out on. And of course, if you haven't heard, Toys R Us is supposed to be opening a bunch of stores, some new flagship stores, and then new pop up stores. They say these flagship stores are going to be open by, there's like a whole list of them by the end of this year. I don't think that's going to happen. There's one actually, they're supposed to be opening here in Maryland. It was actually supposed to open up this month. And from what I've heard, is not even close to opening. There is a pop up store in this area that is opened up at one of the malls. Um, but as far as like these new flagship store, permanent stores, they might get one or two of them open. I think they've already opened one new store this year, but I would be surprised if they get all of the ones that they've said open. Um, and then, like I say, they do have the pop up stores, which is different than like the stuff in the Macy's. So these are like full fledged Toys R Us stores. I think mostly in like mall type settings. They're just not permanent. It's kind of like Spirit Halloween um, type deal. But and I've seen some images of some of these pop up stores. Toys R Us to me, is living off of its name recognition more than anything. But there's nothing I've seen in the images of, as far as the products that they have in these stores that's, you couldn't find pretty much anywhere that carries toys, Walmart, Target, whatever. In fact, a lot of the inventory that Toys R Us seems to be carrying is actually older inventory, which other places are actually, starting to discount. So, Toys R Us is still trying to sell older stuff at full price. So I don't know. It's cool having a Toys R Us in some ways, but I just, the hype for these Toys R Us stores, I think, is greater than the reality that that they actually are going to present. Sorry, went off a little bit of topic there. KF5KT. I'm not even going to try and pronounce the rest of your name because I would butcher it. But greetings from Venezuela. Jerry's in the house. Where's Poe? Need to complete the Force Awakens trio from the best Star Wars movie. Jay says Darth Vader looks very cool in person. The vintage collection one, yeah. I don't do vintage collection, but it looks like a cool one. I guess Nick Cage is probably too old to play young Dooku at this point. Well, if you watch the cartoon, I mean, I'm not even, when I say it looks like Nicolas Cage and from some angles, if you actually go and watch that cartoon it's based on, the animation version of Dooku does look a little bit like Nick Cage. So William says, wonder how flexible the owl's coat is. I definitely think the figure, one of the advantages I think of doing the modern figure over the classic look is it does give him more posability. The coat itself looks like is removable. Obviously, the sleeves of the coat are sculpted, so you could technically probably take the coat off. I'm sure it's the same kind of rubbery type material that they use on all those kinds of coats. So it's probably got the same kind of flexibility as any other figure that has that kind of coat. But I feel like if they did the full on like classic version of Al, he would have far less posability than this one. Is it Nightcrawler as Spider-Man or Spider-Man as Nightcrawler? Based on the fact that he's got elf ears and a tail and using a sword. I've not read the story, so I could be wrong, but I believe it is Nightcrawler dressed as Spider-Man, unless unless Peter Parker got injected with some type of Nightcrawler serum that had him morph into uh, Nightcrawler. Justin, Lex Luthor and Superman repaints, or Spider-Man and Green Goblin repaints. I'm not sure what that's a comment. Emma two translucent. I thought Emma looked pretty cool. But I guess I get what you're saying because she's supposed to be a diamond. She doesn't really look see through in the comics, I guess. But as far as the figure itself, just on its own self, I thought it looked pretty cool. I don't know. I don't think it's too. If you honestly, it's not like Iceman clear. So I don't know. I think it looks pretty good. I don't know if I'm gonna get it, but I think it looks pretty good. Dwight did confirm for me we are due for an oversized retro card back. That's probably the onslaught. I mean, I can tell you, I've seen distributor listings for a deluxe version of Onslaught. So um, I will say with about 90% certainty that is definitely a figure that is coming. What is up, Brick Something? Good to catch you on your live again. Been a while. Well, it's probably because I'm on Sunday. I haven't done a weekend live stream in ages. I said this is basically my Monday live stream a day early, so I will not be doing a live stream tomorrow, which is my normal day and time. But this is what we would basically be talking about just a day earlier. So, well, actually, this is well. If you go back to some of my very early videos, this is my upstairs office. So this is I won't say I've never done a stream from here, but it's certainly been a long time. Normally, I do my streams from my basement office, but I just wanted to try a different setup just to give you a little change in venue. Also, you may notice back here, this was my birthday gift this year from my wife. And I love it. Like I play it every day. So this is a real pinball machine. It's from Stern. It is a Costco exclusive. It is Star Wars, obviously. It is primarily Empire Strikes Back, like on the sides and everything is artwork from Empire Strikes Back, but like on the actual playing area, there's got Star Wars. You can see Star Wars on the back light up area and stuff. So it's a little mix of all three movies, but mostly Empire Strikes Back, which of course is my favorite movie. And like I say, I used to have the arcade one up digital Star Wars pinball machine, but that thing was horrible. They didn't make it very well, and so it kept overheating and burning out the circuit board. And Arcade One Up sent me like three different replacement parts, and every time, and it would take the casing off, things like that, which I did. The last time I had the casing off and everything, but I was playing it. It was a somewhat warm day. We didn't have the air conditioning on, so the room was a little bit warm, and it just ended up frying the board again. So I gave up on it. I don't even Arcade One Up didn't have any more replacement parts to send. Um, so I couldn't, even if I wanted to pay for it, I couldn't get it. So I finally got rid of it, and my wife got me this, which again is a real actual pinball machine. Um, for my birthday. So I don't know if that's going to be the permanent spot. It's where we could fit it uh, right now. So we're actually gonna, like, you can't see because we've got carpeting in here now, but we're probably going to replace the carpeting here soon with hard floors. And so I'm gonna end up having to take all of this stuff out at some point, which is going to be a pain in the butt for putting in new flooring. But and at that point I may do some rearranging. But for now, this is the setup in my upstairs office. My Captain America tribute wall back there. I don't know, well, you can see that. And those are 3 3/4 inch GI Joes up there on that white shelf back there. My Captain America portrait, autographed by Stan Lee and a few other people. I got that on my honeymoon. Um, Couple other Star Trek autograph things back there. So this still very much action figure influenced in this office, but not quite as much as the basement. But going back to your point, this is actually the first time I've done a stream in this room in a very long time. So you're actually right on time to check out the new setup. What is up? Just jumped in. What did I miss? Hopefully, caught most of it. But what's up, Road Pig? Obscure is an understatement. Talking about firepower, but it's a cool Iron Man villain. I mean, it was a cool story, kind of capping off the Armor War storyline and everything. So I definitely would. I mean, a little bit would depend on price, but if it ends up being firepower, I probably will get that one. Any word on GI Joe with Masters of the Universe? Not that I've heard, and hopefully that never happens. I can't. I got those first two Transformer Masters of the Universe crossover figures, and I got to say I was not overly impressed. I did not end up getting the second two. Jerry got Law and Order for $35 through Target Circuit Sale. Go to your Target, folks. It's still on. Yeah, I mean, we're getting into with us heading into November. You're going to start seeing sales on Amazon. We've seen some stuff hitting, Marshalls and stuff for Hasbro stuff. So, we are going into the kind of as we go into the holidays. Hopefully, you guys will be able to get some deals, good deals on stuff that maybe you've been holding off on. Brick Something Love, where they took Zap. He is my first real American hero figure back in the day. Him and Stalker. Mine was Grunt, but Zap was definitely one I had early on. And I always liked the Bazooka Soldier. So yeah, he was a favorite of mine. Like I said, I get, seen some people say he's kind of dull and boring looking because he's just like a green shirt. But I mean, that's most of the original, first wave of Joes and stuff. So, oh, this is my casual hat. So, you know, I as I get older, I feel, I need to update my wardrobe a little bit. So this is kind of my old man hat that I wear when I walk the dog because uh I've been told by the doctors that, because I don't have much hair, um so I don't get cancer, I should always wear a hat when I go outside. So this is kind of my sun walking hat, and or as I call it, my wife calls it my old man hat. So I figure with the weekend, I'd go with this hat. Quinn says, 1,066 out of 10,000. So we're moving on up on that Tron has. Yeah, I'm 100% 3 3/4 inch when it comes to Star Wars, and 6 inch with everything. Yeah, I don't like. Yeah, and I think it's because Star Wars. I mean, Star Wars is bigger than GI Joe. Still has a following of 3 3/4 inch collectors. It's just not as big. But then GI Joe, as far as the collector, is not a bigger group as Star Wars is. So I think that plays a role in it. But Star Wars is the only brand that I think has been able to sustain long term 3 3/4 inch products. But the biggest obstacle to 3 3/4 inch is the price. It used to be you could get a 3 3/4 inch figure much cheaper than a 6 inch figure. And so there was always this argument, well, people don't want to spend the extra money on a 6 inch figure. We'll go with a 3 3/4 inch. But nowadays, a 3 3/4 inch figure can be almost as expensive as a 6 inch figure. And so there's not really that cost savings to go with the smaller scale. Now, there's still some advantages to the smaller scale. Vehicles are easier to do, they don't take up as much space. But I think most people who collect today just have moved on to 6 and 7 inch scale as the preferable scale. Um, and we've seen Hasbro try to relaunch 3 3/4 inch. It didn't really work. They farmed it off to Super 7 with their reaction figures, but that's not, we get a couple of reaction figures here and there, but it's not like, no vehicles or anything like that. So, Star Wars is really kind of the only line. And again, Star Wars has always been a very vehicle heavy line. Um, is why I think the 3 3/4 inch still works for Star Wars. But I feel like, you know, there's just not much chance that 3 3/4 inch is ever going to be a big thing. And I don't know, I can't sit here and say, as far as even Star Wars, which sells better for them, Black Series or a 3 3/4 inch. I think it's Black Series, but I couldn't say that for sure. Obviously, when it comes to, Hasbro tried to do 6 inch scale vehicles for Star Wars, and it had not had that much success with that. I think they've had more success doing 6 inch scale vehicles for GI Joe than they did for Star Wars. Um, but I just, like I say, I just don't think, I don't think a Marvel Universe 3 point, and like Marvel, which is not a vehicle heavy line, I don't think, 6 inch, you'll have some people that would collect 3 3/4 inch Marvel, but you're never going to have as many people collecting 3 3/4 inch Marvel figures as you do 6 inch figures. Sir David Rocker, I'm buying all those Tron Legacy figures. I can't wait for those. Yeah, I'm waiting to see what the price is. I might pick them up if the price is somewhat reasonable, but I'm not gonna make any proclamations that I'm buying those until I know how much they're gonna charge. And yes, I am upstairs in my upstairs office. Sir Davy, I've been waiting for the owl for so long. At this rate, I'll get the next wishlist character Stingray in 2045. They did do a Marvel Universe Stingray, so they might do one at some point. The Watcher says, I was hoping the Diamond Emma was based on the X-Men 97 version of Emma Frost. The MM says, Al is cool now, where's Bullet? I'm trying to remember. Bullet was like a bigger type character, another Daredevil villain, right? Jerry says, been to London, beautiful city, but no Ross, Target, or Walmart. It seems like I've never been to London or anywhere over in Europe, but seems like when it comes to toys, people tend to gravitate more to small independent stores than any kind of big box retailer. I could be wrong on that, but seems like that tends to be the case. Happy to help with coverage. It's great having something in the UK and had more reveals than normal this year. Yeah, they had more in general. Like I wasn't even sure that we were gonna get like GI Joe reveals at MCM this year. I knew we'd get Star Wars. I knew we'd get Marvel. Likelihood for Transformers, even though honestly we didn't really get a ton of reveals for Transformers this year, but I wasn't sure of GI Joe. And then, like I say, next week at Luca, I think it's only going to be a couple of Star Wars and a couple of Marvel reveals. I don't think we're going to get any GI Joe or Transformers next week. Bat Mike Man is late, but here now. Always better late than never. The Watcher, it's pricing people out. Yeah, unfortunately, and I've said this many times, the prices on these things are always just going to go up, and eventually they will end up. These companies will price themselves out of the market. The thing about this hobby, though, is a lot of people in this hobby, not everybody, but a lot of people in this hobby do have a fair amount of disposable income. And they collect this stuff because they like kind of reliving their childhood. So it tends to be a little more inflation resistant, but there's always going to be a breaking point. And the other thing, it's not just price, it's space, especially with more and more companies doing these huge items. People are running out of space to put their stuff. And so, what's the point of buying something if you can't, really display it or enjoy it? Oh, and going back to Jay, if you haven't already, check out his YouTube channel, Dan Who's Reviews as well. Um, again, these guys have been helping with coverage, so it's always appreciated. If you're not following those guys, you should. Sir, say, yeah. I mean, I think the days of a full fledged toy store at mass retail, have long since passed. I think high prices that kids more today are into their electronic devices than they are action figures. Um, and I mean, Toys R Us, even in its heyday, has always somewhat struggled trying to balance between products for your traditional parent and kids and then for the adult collector market. So, yeah, it's I don't think Toys R Us will ever return to its heyday. And it definitely, I think, has an uphill battle. Quinn's Comics, I monitor big box retailers like Walmart, Target, and I can say that they definitely are running on the thin cider of new merchandise. I am more well stocked on items that they don't have. Well, of course, because you're specifically catering to the adult action figure collector primarily. They are not. Um, and those stores' distribution have always been horrible. When you get away from their distribution centers and the ports, those guys out in California and stuff, they always, those guys posting the pictures of the new finds and everything, almost always those guys are in places where the stores are well stocked. But, those of us that are not near those things, which I think is the majority of the country, our stores are generally very sparsely stocked. And it just becomes like, and to me, it's not even just action figures. I find it more and more where I go into like a Home Depot or a Best Buy and they don't have what I'm looking for. And I can go on Amazon and find easily what I want and have it the next day, maybe sometimes, 2 days, but sometimes even the same day, you know. And so it's just easier for me to order online. So I find, other than going to the grocery store every week for everyday food, I find that I buy a lot of things online more so than I do going into a physical store. Sometimes when I need to buy clothes and you want to be able to try it on or something, I'll go into a store. But, and traditional, where I live, traditional malls, they are definitely becoming more and more a thing of the past. Um, Most of the malls around this area, we used to have a ton of them, but most of them have been bulldozed for either, like, the big thing around here is retail slash residential, meaning like, you've got a row of condominiums where the first row is retail stores, and then above it is like housing that people live in, and that's become very popular in this area. Uh, so again, this is my old man hat, and primarily it's my dog walking hat when I to keep my head from getting, sun on it so I don't get cancer, uh, which is something the doctors tell you when you get old and bald. Um, but I don't know, I kind of like the baseball cap, kind of liking these kind of floppy hats more. But like I say, it's my old man hat. It's the weekend. I figure, changing the venue, change up my hat. Why not? And I was just gonna say, I don't really like. I think that kind of hat looks good on Robo, but it's not my. I like this kind of style better than that. Part of it, I have, I have my ears stick out, so I don't like hats that show, make my ears stand out even more. So I think 3 3/4 inch market is pretty much all but dead. I hate to say it, but it is what it is. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think, like I say, Hasbro still seems to put a decent amount of effort in vintage collection. So I'm assuming they see results for those. They certainly seem to get better results on their Star Wars HasLabs for vintage collection than they did on Black Series HasLabs, though they haven't really tried one in a long time. So it may be they just picked a bad thing, but yeah, I mean, definitely, there's no doubt in my mind that there's more 6 inch collectors out there these days than there are 3 3/4 inch. I got the Touch Fool. I only want the light cycles is there if they're not overpriced. And yeah, again, I think those are going to be more expensive than a regular retail item, which obviously these days is not cheap in its own right. Virtual Dave, hi from the UK. Just got back from London. Hopefully, you had a good time. It looks like, I mean, I've obviously never been to MCM, but it looks like a pretty good convention. It doesn't have, other than Hasbro, it doesn't have like a huge toy presence. Other than maybe like Bandai, I don't know if any other toy companies actually attend MCM, but Hasbro's been attending it for quite a while now. I would want to say at least over 5 years. Have I tried a pork pie hat? I don't know what a pork pie hat is, so I'm going to say no. It's called a bucket hat here. I think that's technically what it's called here, but I just call it my old man hat. My wife likes to call me Mr. Wilson when I wear this hat. John, I lived in Singapore for 10 years and they have Toys R Us there, but they don't sell G.I. Joe there. Yeah, and G.I. Joe is one of those properties where it's fairly popular here in the United States. But once you get out of the United States, G.I. Joe, G.I. Joe is not nearly as popular outside of the United States as like Transformers or Star Wars or Marvel. Um, so, and I think that's why Hasbro, has been going to some of these overseas conventions because they're trying to increase their overseas presence, which is not is not an unsmart strategy, but definitely I think out of their major action figure brands, GI Joe is probably the hardest one for them to push outside of the United States. And for a time at least, I think they just changed it, but I think for a little while there, you could only buy GI Joe in the UK through Hasbro Pulse. I think they started letting other e-tailers there carry GI Joe, but for a couple years, I think Hasbro Pulse was the only place you could actually get GI Joe. Virtual Dave, Mattel had a booth at MCM London in May. Really? I don't. Did they have anything new? Natural Nate Marvel. I got my Super 7 Trump Lion-O. I, I don't know what the Trump reference to Lion-O is, but glad you got the figure. And thank you for the super chat. That was why the G.I. Joe cartoon went from, right, Real American Hero to Internet, or wasn't it Action Force? Well, yeah, they did change it to International Hero, but wasn't originally outside the United States GI Joe basically Action Force? Oh, the orange version. Gotcha. That Tron Legacy 6-inch line might end up as a major pre-order item for the full set of figures. Is that what they told you there at MCM? So yeah, I that wouldn't shock me if they did that. It's kind of weird to do made to pre-order, and I think I don't know. I'm trying, like, if they made you have to buy all the figures and the light cycle as a made to pre-order and couldn't buy them individually. I mean, like, I don't know. If I was going to collect that, I probably would get all the figures. So I don't know how much of a deal breaker that is, but like, I don't know if I like, for me personally, I'd rather have the figures than the light cycle. I thought the like, I love Tron Legacy, but I thought the Tron Legacy light cycles were kind of boring. Um, but again, it would come down to price, how much it is. The thing about made to pre-order, and so far it hasn't happened, but if they don't get enough orders to justify moving forward, they would likely just cancel it. You wouldn't be out any money, but you wouldn't actually get the figures. Like, with the made to pre-order, the big difference between made to pre-order and the HasLab formula is with HasLab, you get charged essentially up front. And with the made to pre-order, you don't get charged until the item actually ships. But it's still, while they don't advertise what the minimum goal is needed for the thing to move forward, you can guarantee there is some kind of minimum number that they need to be able to sell in order to justify moving into production. So if they end up going with the made to pre-order route for those Tron Legacy figures, it will be interesting to see if they actually do end up moving into production or if they end up getting canceled. HoloNet says, I actually saw the Falcon and Coral 2-pack at Walmart today. That was like a year ago, wasn't it? I did get my Walmart exclusive, the set that goes along with Crystal Ball with the translucent parts and stuff. I got my the Wraith set that arrived on Friday. Yeah, I know modern day Action Force from Valorverse is not G.I. Joe, but the original Action Force was the UK version of G.I. Joe, which gets confusing. Definitely gets confusing. I always get like confused with the Action Force stuff. And all right, well, what time is it? Oh, well, we've gone over an hour. All right, so again, no live stream for me tomorrow, but I don't know if I'll be back on Wednesday or Friday, but you'll see me next week at some point, just not tomorrow. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thanks everyone who's been checking out the MCM coverage all weekend. Again, a lot of pre-orders this week. If you collect a lot of different Hasbro properties, your wallet's probably going to be having a real hissy fit this week. So, but hopefully you're able to get what you want. And we'll leave it there. But again, thank you guys. I don't know. Tell me in the comments if you like this venue. I'll switch it up. Maybe do some from here, some downstairs. Just kind of keep things. Never know where I'll pop up. Oh, and I think I am going to be definitely going to Legion. I think I said that on Friday, but I still got to book my hotel. But I am definitely probably almost 95% certain that I'm going to be going to Legion Con this year. So it'll be my first Legion Con convention this year. So if anybody's going to that and you happen to see me, be sure to say hi. All right, so we'll leave it there. Hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend, even though the weekend is at this point almost over. But hopefully you had fun, especially you guys in London with the convention. Next week, again, we've got another convention with Italy. So we'll see what Hasbro has in store for us for that. As always, guys, stay safe. And until next time, I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching today's video. If you're new to the channel, think about subscribing and hitting that bell notification so you're alerted every time I upload a new video. You can also think about becoming an Action Figure Enthusiast channel member. There's a link in the video description below with more details on that. Check out all the names of everyone who's already joined, scrolling down at the bottom of your screen. And for the latest in action figure news, be sure to head over to ToyNewsEye.com, MarvelousNews.com, JediInsider.com, and TFormers.com. And remember, action figures are great!